morning, viewers, and welcome again to another episode of Universal Energies. As you know, this is the programme that gives people the tools so that they can find out for themselves. My guests today are Keith and Anne, who are very much into the healing situation as we have here. And they're from Healing Alchemy, which is based in Colchester. Everything that is happening today, addresses, phone numbers, etc., websites, will appear on the credits. So before we go any further, welcome Keith.
Hi Rob.
And welcome Anne.
Hello Rob.
They have both, now that's not true, Keith has been on the interview before, right at the beginning when we first started the series, probably about 2 years ago, Keith, I would think.
When I had less hair, that's the one, remember that one.
Or was it more hair?
Thank you so
I can't remember, but having said that,
Yeah.
you can use this, my friends, as a reference to see how things are progressed from here. Today we're not going to talk about how Keith got into it, or the faiths and beliefs and that kind of thing that he was introduced to. We are going to listen to how he has progressed, him and Anne, over the years they've been doing this. So let me ask you first, Keith, can you explain the healing energies and how they've developed and where you want to go with them?
How they've developed, it's a really good question, Rob. Been within the healing field since 97. That's when prior to that it was early 90s when I come into it, but I've been practicing since 97. I've seen a lot of changes go through since that time. It's about development of self as a person individually. I'm not just talking about development so that we can, perceive the aura or connect to the spirit world, that kind of thing, that kind of development. I'm talking about the inner development of the self, which is about letting go of those things that are holding us back, the deep stuff, if you like. And as I've gone on my personal journey, it's like you clients go along with you in many ways. The people who come to see you, they'll come to see at the level that you're at, really. And then as you develop more and the energy's developed, they develop as well. It's because you're working so closely with people, and that's where it's much of a shared journey. I've noticed the energies really become more prevalent now than ever before. So it's very much it's all about the development of self and looking at us. It's not about finding a therapy that's the quick fix kind of scenario. It's about working out your inner core of self to move forward. And I've just found that we're never all fully sorted, of course we're not, and it's about recognising that we like this, the analogy of the onion. The onion, we got these layers and layers and layers of things, and you think, well, okay, we always getting near the centre of the onion, and then it just gets bigger again, so I might go as an onion in a fancy dress party, that sort of thing, just see what reaction that will bring. But that is a very good analogy of how we are, really. Yes, that's development is about, but it's ongoing. It seems to be moving forward at quite a pace at the moment as well.
This brings up other questions that we didn't discuss before, so I'd like to bring you in here,
Yes.
Anna, at this moment. Keith was talking about the inner self here. I know that you do counselling, and you are a qualified counsellor. Would you relate this to inner issues that people have?
Yes, people do have many inner issues, and sometimes with the counselling process a client may come along and they may think they have present with one particular issue, or they say, I want to look at this aspect in my life, and then some other issue becomes apparent. And so there are many inner issues, whether they're conscious or unconscious. As we delve into a person's development, other issues may become more apparent, and then realise the effects in their present life, and how things from the past affect people in the present.
Thank you. I must admit that those questions were really good, because that shows the viewers here how you gel together. How both of you work in separate mediums, use the pun here.
That's all right.
But separate things, achieving the same goals, if you like.
That's right.
Developing at the same rate, if you also like here. And it's all that self-development knowledge that you have here that you're giving to your clients here.
Yeah, pretty much so.
So let me ask you, Keith, here. I know that you have this healing that you're quite passionate about, called Thai cutting.
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Would you like to explain just that little bit about that?
Okay, it's cutting the ties, and is relevant to when we'd like to think that we get all our needs met as we grow from our developmental years through from up to adolescence and adulthood and beyond, and that we get all the praise and all the support that we'll ever need. And for most of us, don't always get that. And it's about building relationships. And if we develop codependent relationships based on what other people expect of us, which can lead to a low self-esteem, those imbalances happen at our energy system as well. It's not just confined to the emotions in the brain. It actually works to our energy system, to our chakras.
Yeah, I think that'd be the old scenario. You call a person stupid and they become stupid.
Yes, basically what it is with enough, and that's part of our conditioning and program, which will come back a little bit later on maybe. So people can go through to adulthood, and like I did when I got to about sort of 30ish, then you realise, hang on a minute, something's not quite right here.
Yesterday, you mean?
Yeah, yesterday. I told you there's more hair. I'm getting younger, Rob. Well, the mind is, but the body's not. And so the low self-esteem, low self-worth becomes what you become. That you're being programmed that way. And so tie cutting, also called as decording, I'm giving it two now because the tie cutting is the older phraseology of the what it's about, but decording is another name that's used for it. But the passionate thing about this is support, not what I can do for people. It's supporting people to work on their own self-healing. The healing energy for any healer will come from the same source consciousness, but it's how we work with it. I think I said this last time I was on, but it's recognising that people have an innate capacity for self-healing. So there's a lot of visualisation work that goes through. I mean, it's healing, but it's actually and but encouraging the person to. And when I work with someone, it's on a very conscious state of attunement. It's like there'll be a dialogue that's going on back and forth. We use a very powerful visual imagery. I discuss all this first with people anyway, and say that, is this how you want to work? It's not about I've got techniques that I think, well, this might be good for this person. It's going through a whole range of areas people feel comfortable with. It's not about, I think this is what you need. It's about, well, can we talk about this? How do you feel about that? And so they ultimately become part of a co-creative process, which is very empowering for the person. We're moving from the Piscean era into the Aquarian era. The Piscean era was very much around the gurus and the experts. We're coming towards the Aquarian, which is about acknowledging that we are our own inner guru, our own inner. But for most people, they don't realise that.
No, I understand that, and that's the reason we have these programs here.
Absolutely.
So people can research and find out themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, the research side of stuff with the tie cutting, it was actually minimal research from. I obviously did some research, but it was about I learn from the people who come.
Yeah.
We've done a little bit of decoding work on the courses years ago with the National Federation of Spiritual Healers, but I've got hold of it and sort of developed it, trusted in my innate abilities to do that, working with the universe for the betterment of all.
What I meant with research, I don't mean academic research so much. I mean inner research.
Oh, the inner, yes,
because they research and. It's the old scenario again. What sits right with oneself is right.
Yeah.
What doesn't, we put on the shelf until it is right, or we don't, or we discard it altogether.
One of my old teachers said, "If it doesn't feel right for you, put it on the back burner."
Yeah,
that's
the same.
So I've always kept that.
Same scenario.
Scenario. So I've always kept that, and it's not about enforcing our beliefs on other people.
No.
All I can say is seeing the benefits from people who come, and I cannot be unchanged by each person's development, because as they developed, my learning experience grows. But it is working with, I'm reinforcing it, you're working with the healing energies on a co-creative level. So you're working you're working with someone very closely, and we use the power visualization, a lot of symbology through it. You're working on a psycho-spiritual level. And sometimes people think, oh, I can't visualize. That doesn't matter. It's not about what you can't, it's what you're able to work with. I've never been a visual person, but often it's about the power of the voice, the being able to listen. And often people who say they can't, they've been programmed what they can't do, but that what they are is learning to deprogram and find out what they can be.
I remember my dad used to say to me, there's no such word as can't.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that generation going back, I know it's a cultural thing, but that generation going back were very determined. And we've lost that determination within ourselves to improve ourselves, to help ourselves. You know, we are a bit like sheep, following the same, or the blinkered horse race, whichever way you want to look at it.
Yeah.
We need to take those blinkers off.
It's a really good analogy, and then of course we have this word come out there called sheeple, haven't we?
Yeah.
And it can be a little bit derogatory on the human race, and at times not because I feel I'm better than the human race, but then sometimes it is frustrating, and there is this. It's almost this I can't do is somehow is being perpetuated. It seems to be out there at the moment. People are still seeking answers from others to somehow fix their problems.
Well, it's the old scenario, camel to water, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And for me, myself and Anna, it's about creating the space for people to grow. It's not always easy. It's not all, no it isn't. Sometimes we work into very difficult and some people call it, I've even heard people in the spiritual, oh yeah, but that's the negative stuff. The way we work to move to to live a more complete future is to heal the past. You can't say, oh, well, we'll move on from that. You have to work with it to move on. You have to release those ties that hold not just emotionally and psychologically, but energetically. And we go through a process of working through the chakra system to let go of those energies that are moving, holding you back. It gets held in our cells of our bodies, not just the chakras. That programming conditioning is within our consciousness, and we're body, mind, consciousness.
Just before I bring you in here, Anna, just there, which I said I wouldn't do too late on, but I am going
Please
to.
do.
Integrate here. And I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. But it's almost like we live in a positive situation, and people don't realise that without the negative, they don't really know what the positive is, and vice versa. It's the yin and yang tie situation whereby we have to know the negative to understand and how we're going to go forward. And you are addressing situations that are there to help them turn that negative into a positive. So they work the negativity, if you like, for themselves.
Yeah.
So let me bring you in here, Anna. How do you feel with your counselling that you're working with Keith along the same road here?
Counselling is a talking therapy. Keith does hands-on healing. With the counselling, that would not involve any direct healing. I work to the BACP guidelines, so the counselling is quite a different form of therapy. It is talking therapy. It's perhaps more orthodox, so people who were maybe dubious of going into a healing situation, working with a healer, a spiritual healer like Keith, they may prefer to do a more orthodox therapy like counselling. And I adopt an integrated approach.
But it seems so closely netted together.
It is. It's very interesting how. So Keith will work with on an energetic level, healing on an energetic level, whereas the counselling, it is the communication, the verbal communication, the relationship is key to how you work with the client.
Yeah.
So it is I would say, with counselling, people would come for maybe more sessions. So one is establishing a relationship with that client for whatever goes on in that period of counselling. So in both situations, healing and counselling, a client could have an emotional release. It's not everything is hunky-dory process. There's no magic wand in either healing or in counselling. Neither Keith nor I are there to fix a client. We're there to support the client, the person, on their journey in their life.
Would you say that perhaps, would it be right to say that maybe they'll come to you for some inner logic, if you like, and then go to Keith maybe for spiritual healing?
Yes, that is one way it could work, yes.
You heard it here, folks?
Yes. With the counselling process, we're looking at a person's thoughts, feelings, their behaviours.
But again, that's going, not interrupting you, but we're both doing that.
We're
but
both doing it in
different
different ways.
That's what I was trying to get to.
It is talking.
Yeah.
It is the communication in the counselling relationship, whether that's verbal communication or non-verbal communication. It's going into things verbally in a lot more depth. Although you go into depth energetically,
Yes.
and we both offer the conditions of empathy, unconditional positive regard, acceptance.
Same core elements of
I
that.
must
The
admit,
core elements.
ever since I've known you, you are, I don't see one without the other. And I'm sure that our viewers won't see one without the other after relaying this interview here, because you work with a unit, so whether you do one aspect and you do another is not really the material point. The
That's
point
right.
is that you're pulling together.
Pulling together.
And when I asked you the question, with all due respect, would your clients, after seeing you, perhaps go to Keith to have spiritual healing here? Then it'll all come into that anyway. And then maybe when people go to Keith for the client, they'll come to you, vice versa. So.
I think that, yes, I can see that developing as well, but also I can also see it that there's an old expression there, it's called horses for courses.
Yeah.
You know that one?
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes people, once they've, that therapeutic relationship, whether it's through Anna or myself, is a very core part of them, and they may feel happy just to continue that work with one of us, or there could be that it's that relationship is so. I mean, I've been to situations, I've had my own therapy over the years, and I've had of that feeling sometimes that the energy, the healing energies are coming through naturally. So I think sometimes people can draw on that energy. If they're going to see Anna for a more orthodox approach, will also get some benefit holistically in that sense of the word. But yeah, I do see there could be a crossover, definitely, and I think that would be a great thing.
I don't know. I mean, yes, I do think there's a crossover, but I think that you work together as one unit.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
So therefore,
yeah.
it's almost like Anna's words are coming out through your hands and vice versa.
It's a great way of putting it.
Yes.
That is really.
That seems to be the way forward and the way things are happening. Whether you are aware of things or not, it makes no difference.
No, it doesn't.
People come to see you through you at home, or they come to see you through the mind, body and spirit arenas. And when they come to see you, at this moment, they focus on, with all due respect, they focus on you as a healer.
Yes, they do. I've been trying to promote. We've both come from a background where we weren't very quiet, shy, retiring, and whilst yes, very much yes, shy, retiring. As a young child, I had a really bad stammer, and I can still recognise that sometimes in certain situations, and it's there. But it's about, we all have different ways of working, but I've been trying to encourage this beautiful lady beside me. I really mean that. in all ways to promote yourself. This confidence that comes out here is an ongoing working process. Some days I don't feel quite, we've all got our default making, it's not a good day, oh God, but it's about, and it shows where we are, that we have still got things, but it's about, but I'm trying this with you on the stand now with your counselling, and why people are not going to have counselling treatment, because it's not that way, is to support you in talking to people and be out there, because she's great with people, absolutely brilliant. Because while I'm doing the healing, people are coming along and she's talking to them and listening to them. They feel safe with her, so that's how I see it. What about you?
Well, you both have aura of safeness around you.
Yes.
And not only because people have known you for what you've been doing over the years, but when people first meet you, because they don't feel threatened. And unfortunately, that if you air positivity, but you recognise the negativity that's there, you don't feel threatened.
Thank you for saying that, Rob.
Yes.
Thank you for saying that. Because
if you don't, the majority of the people living today, unfortunately, have more, want more, say more, get more, need more.
Yes, it's as if they need to live the perfect life.
There's no such thing, we know.
Yes, but it's with all the conditioning around us, with all the TV adverts, the marketing, this is what your life should be like, and then people are trying to live up to that ideal.
Yeah, and I feel very sorry for sorry to interrupt, I feel very sorry for the youngsters coming along today, because the peer pressure is enormous through the media of television or magazines, and people relate to things that are on the screen today because they use that almost as an escape from reality.
That's right. It's a very good way of describing it, and often it's like a drip, drip, drip feed. People don't realise what's happening. It's like if someone was on a drip, 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 or a better analogy, someone's pregnant and they're expecting a baby. That mother could be an alcoholic or a drug addict. The baby will not know that, but the baby will be born being addicted. And people, I think, in this material world are very much like that until they don't realise they're conforming to a system, and that's gets to the fringe area stuff, which I'm very passionate about. That is often, I think, put in place to prevent us from growing, because we're much safer if we are following the system and the expectations that society expects of us.
Absolutely.
That influences our families, but we're going on to other areas there, I realise.
Well, that brings me on quite nicely.
I wasn't leading it.
No, you were.
No,
You were.
Oh, no.
I know you're quite passionate about ancestral healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure the viewers would like to know in depth as possible what ancestral healing is.
What ancestral healing is. To start with, it's work in progress. It began to manifest when I was working with people. We were doing the cutting the ties, tie cutting, decording. People were starting to have experiences where, through the visualization work that we were doing on a one-to-one basis, people were acknowledging that they were aware of ancestral energies coming into the space. They were aware, whether it be a memory, it could be something that maybe their mother, father or grandfather has said, and also there could be, remember that we're all future ancestors, and there is a little bit of naivety out there that we respect our ancestors, the wealth of knowledge that's been built up over thousands of years. But try telling that to someone who's gone through child abuse at the hands of a parent or grandparent. That ancestor is not held with due care and respect, but for the head trauma is held inside. Sometime when these people start experiences, people were having that kind of memory, or they could imagine that person, or you'd have an energy coming in that they weren't quite aware of, and then as the session starts to develop, this could have been an ancestor they weren't aware of, going back many, many generations. That the idea being that somewhere down the generational line, a decision or action was made by one of their ancestral on the generational line, which caused a ripple of energy, of negative energy, to flow down the ancestral line to different subsequent families, and that may have built up. And it's a bit like sometimes we know that certain families have certain traits. There could be I mean, even the scientists have worked out that we carry certain aspects, genetic signs, in ourselves, that we, oh no, I've got white coloured hair or blue coloured eyes,
or the lack of it,
Yeah. Thank you so much. So yeah, but that it gets passed down, but also the energies that gets now. Some people say, well, surely when we pass over, why would we bring back? Well, that makes a sense, really. It does, because of karma. We try and get hold of karma. It's like getting hold of the Karate Kid with his chopstick, trying to get hold of the fly. Karma, what is karma? I see it being played out in people's lives in the here and now.
Yeah, definitely.
That's how I see
definitely.
it. And I find it more and more and more, it's on the ancestral level. And I think I feel that we are born into soul groups, into families or close friends, and they can be very, very difficult. And certain families have certain traits. They could be abusive families. They could be families of low self-esteem, fighting families, quarrelsome families. And they can even get played out on a world scale with countries. And what happens is, I've found, is that certain people in a generation, they may be a little bit different. They may be, oh, she's not quite, oh, you're so different from us, or they're just a little. There are changes. You're not like so and so. You're not the black sheep of the family. That kind of thing. You're different. And these I found generally, and certainly from where I'm from, that we have the opportunity to stop that negative cycle.
But surely, can I interrupt there?
Yes,
surely that goes for choices. We have choices in life.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes those choices are predetermined for us, but we need intuitive choices, instructional choices too, and non-assuming choices.
Well, this is really a really good question, because where do our choices come from? And the important part is, when you're working on ancestral healing or tie cutting, wherever it is, you're closely connecting to the higher self, that part of you that knows why you're here. Now, I think we are born with an overall plan, but we are subject to negative choices on the earth plane. They have a huge effect. And I say, this is what I've working with people, this is what's coming out. I think we'll count this energy that's passed down the generational line, and each subsequent generation has the opportunity to develop that and to work with it and to move forward. But also, we are being born into an environment that is so restrictive to us spiritually, it will shut us down. All these magnificent ideas that we've come in from our soul self, bringing into the earth plane, the existential, which you'll pick up on this as well with where Dan's coming from, the existential environment is so negative now. I feel that as a soul level, we're actually born into muddy waters or cold soup, and for us to actually to get through our life plan, or to find the choices that we had thought that we were going to have, are not quite always there. And what that means is that the existential environment is also an energetic environment from a negative side, and that has a detrimental effect on our energy system. And that's why, on a soul level, people are not always aware of the choices that they do have. It's huge.
I agree.
Can you understand that?
I do agree. I agree most profoundly.
That was a really difficult question, but I'm pleased you asked it.
And the way you put it over is that yes, we all do have choices. Unfortunately, there are people that work within the spiritual spectrum that confine those choices to that spiritual spectrum. And they don't look at, and this is where you could come in, Anna, they don't look at the situation of the public as a whole. If we look at it and say that there's probably maybe 33% who understand about the spiritual spectrum, they understand about the spiritual choices, but the rest don't. And so their choices are black and white. It either works or it doesn't work, and if it doesn't work, we move on. And I have respect for those people, because they don't waver along the way. It's either yes, no, or indifferent. There's nothing in between, sort of like. You'll generally find that those people will make the right choice for them, and they'll move on, and they'll be quite happy in their lives until something happens whereby take a grieving situation, no matter what that is. We're not just talking about a loss of a loved one here. It could be anything from a moving house, loss of house, lost empire, bankrupt, whatever it happens to be. When we get to a grieving situation, they sometimes can't cope. And I think the spiritual aspect of choices is there for that reason. So that people have a ball point, a starting point if you want, to go from. And that's when they come and see people like yourselves and say, well look, this, that and something else has happened here. And you take them through the steps, Anna, to get them. What was your take on that?
People often say they have no choice. It's about widening their perspective of what choices are, what the consequences could be of that choice. As Keith was saying, we are sometimes at the end of other people's negative choices, and we have to cope with the situation that we find ourselves in. But there are choices out there, and each choice that a person makes, even if they're passive in that, they are making a choice. And with making choices comes responsibility for actions. Therefore, if a person is saying that they have no choice in the matter, then perhaps they feel that they have no responsibility in the matter. And there's so many issues around that with choices, responsibility, control. That brings in about control. It is an area that could be discussed forever.
Yeah, I do think that you're hitting on the point, really, whereby through choices there are consequences for every choice you make. And we get back to the point is that you don't know negative without the positive and yin and yang and that kind of thing. We get back to that as well here. So when clients come to you, I suppose they're in a situation whereby they don't know which way to go, what road to go on, what tools are there to help. So the program like this, your explanation, and it will not just be from a spiritual point of view or an adaptation of a counselling point of view. It'll be a practical view, because they will be able to see this and get the practical information at the end of where they can find you. So that's what I was trying to tie up for everything that's there. I think we've tied that up really nicely here. I'd just like to say to you about the ancestral healing. If somebody approached you and said to you, I put the question is, what's the difference between that and past lives?
Right, this is a very interesting point. I've been asked this question. Recently I was asked if I could do a past life regression. And as I spoke to the person, it became more apparent that was what they thought they needed, but actually it was more like looking at where they were coming from in another way through their ancestry. Past life regression, and we go back to the quantum theory here. What is past lives, and it's about that working. Past life therapy is about taking something that happened in I call it our soul history, an aspect of our soul history that had maybe a negative effect on where we are now. And that I'm not knocking that at all. In a way, it's very related to it. Some people who go through an ancestral, recently someone through an ancestral experience working with me, subsequently had a past life experience from it. So I don't call it past, I call it soul history work.
Can I just interrupt there?
That's all right.
It brings many questions up here, which are not time to go through, because we are getting on here in time.
I know.
But let me just ask, you're talking about your talking about ancestral healing.
Yes. Yes.
You're also talking about past lives here.
Yes. Yes.
What are ancestors?
We are ancestors. Our ancestors
Are people that existed before.
That's right.
So
That's right,
I
yes.
bring the question up again.
Yeah.
I'll put it another way. Isn't past life
Uh-huh.
and ancestral
Mm-hmm.
very closely linked?
Yeah, like they're like that. They're linked to each other.
Okay.
Working with the ancestral way, I think, has a great opportunity for also connecting to very much what's going on in the present as well. There again, any past life therapist would be saying the same as me. We're all working to the same.
I only brought this up
Keith,
because
please.
at the end of the day, then I've done past life regression through hypnosis.
Right. This is
Many years.
Right.
And at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's a case of that a lot of the time their ancestors will be from a very close generation, maybe great going back
Yes.
up there. A lot of the time people will bring back ancestral relations
Mm-hmm.
from a very early time.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
But another lot of people will bring back how they thought they were or where they have experienced
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in their lives, and you know exactly what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
through that. So the viewers are going to link the two
Well, they are
together.
All I can say is, when you're working on a past life regression and you're using hypnosis to do that, this is different. We're working in a conscious state of attunement, a very high state of attunement, where you're consciously working through the material, if you like, in front of you. The person will be going very, very deeply relaxed, but this is not hypnosis. We're on a one-to-one, but there's not that hypnotic technique is not there. It's just a very deep relaxation process. And they will have experiences, they will have visions, all that kind of thing, but it's not on a hypnotic level. It's a different. And what I found is, I'm not knocking past life regression, I think working this way is actually more empowering, because they're working right in the here and now in their conscious mind. And I find what it does do, it brings the subconscious and the unconscious to the core then, but they're in a conscious state of attunement with it. As I say, this is working in progress. Some of the stuff that I've seen on that couch is extraordinary. And so I think it's, again, horses for courses, people might go to see a past life therapist, but also I understand the word past life. But any past life therapist may also, needs to be saying that any experience that person have may just be a psycho-spiritual drama played out for them in a way for their soul growth. Recently, someone was ancestral, and the ancestral links developed all the way back. It went through a sort of domino effect to a situation and had a direct resulting in something happened in their present life about a week or so after that session on ancestral past life soul history. I just call it soul history level, and it's trying to we try and bracket these things into this lifetime. We are what we know in this physical world, we put on the back of a postage stamp and try and work it out.
We do.
But no, I do appreciate these questions, because they're the only way that we grow, by people that is asking them.
Well, it's not just that. It's all I need to do is through lovely people like you being interviewed, is to show the viewers, to give them the tools to find out themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been in a situation whereby, and I know you have too, whereby it's been controlled and it's been dominated and it's been dictated. And even if we are not directly related to that, we suffer the same symptoms through peer pressure. When our mums and dads, before we go to school, when we go to school, we are dictated to whatever happens to be, until we get to a point where we can make up our own mind. And sometimes the peer pressure is so much we don't want to rock any boats. So hopefully we give people the tools to rock those boats and find out for themselves.
It is.
You know, if they go wrong. Before we go on to anything else, I'd like to make this a bit about yourself, Anne.
Yes.
Anna. Yeah. All right. How did you get into the counselling?
I've had personal therapy at various times in my life. Counselling, the idea of doing a counselling course has appealed to me for a number of years, but I never felt the time was right. And I actually went into it at the Counselling Concepts to learn a little bit about counselling skills and the concepts of counselling. It was to learn some communication skills, a set of skills, actually to bring into healing work. Some communication skills, to learn a little bit about communicating with that person in front of you, the relationship. I felt something was missing. And I did a couple of short courses, and I found I liked it.
Oh.
I felt, oh,
No.
yes, I can go with this. I never went into it with the idea of actually becoming a qualified counsellor. But I got, a little way into it, done a couple of courses, and I thought actually I will then carry on and do the full qualification. So I am qualified therapeutic counsellor, integrative approach, which means I incorporate various approaches. I am core humanistic with a person-centred approach, but incorporating other areas, other models like existential, which looks at a client's worldview, their working life, how they fit into the world. Psychodynamic, maybe bringing in some of the client's history. So yes, so I am a qualified counsellor now. I've said that once already, but I feel
It's important you say that.
feel
The
like
world
I've
is a
achieved
better place
something.
for it.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
am a member of the British Association of Counselling and Psychotherapy. I'm a registered member.
And just, sorry to interrupt, and you're not interrupting, but there's also recognising that there are people out there who are calling themselves counsellors and they're not necessarily registered. Just want to remind you. of that.
Unfortunately, within the business of spiritual healing, spiritual attunement, counselling of a nature of practical, spiritual, material, physical, whatever that happens to be, there are people that run on the bandwagon, and that's the way it is. And you'll get that for any walk of life.
Yes.
You'll also get what they call the uniform scenario, whereby someone puts a uniform on and calls themselves something, and the ego is so big they can't even get behind the couch that they're using. You will get that in all sorts of things, but we look beyond that, and
Yes.
that's
Yeah, that's right.
So let's make this generic now.
Okay.
I see you have some leaflets with you.
Yes, we do.
yes.
Yes.
Would you
we do.
like to just maybe hold up to the camera and explain what they are and what's on there and everything else?
After you, love.
Well, this is my client information leaflet. It states obviously that I'm a therapeutic counsellor with a diploma in integrative counselling. I'm a member of BACP. It has my contact details there. And this is a little bit about what is counselling and how counselling can help with a variety of issues. And what a client may expect from the counselling process, and a little bit about how I work.
That's it. Hold it. If you hold it up a bit close, that's it. So we can see that.
Yes.
And all the information to get in contact with you will be at the end on the credits. Yes.
Yes, that's right. And I have my BACP
Lovely.
registration number on the back of the leaflet.
Over to you, Keith.
Right.
Thank you.
Right, brilliant stuff. And it's similar for me, really. It's all information about spiritual healing, what it's about. And
They'd
also-
like to see it rather than you reading it.
Oh yes, I know. Awfully sorry. There's the front. There's an interesting diagram there, which I'll explain very, very quickly in a minute. It's about cutting the ties and ancestral healing as well. a little bit about animal healing, as I do work with our four-legged variety, and also about our workshops and other courses and groups that we run. The front cover there is a very interesting one, and that is significant of other area of the work, which is around the Atlantean attunements, which has come up quite significantly the last couple of years. So I'm pushing that one. So this diagram here is a diagram called a Merkaba. So I had to put that one in there. But anyway, all the information that you'll need will be in both of our leaflets. So, but thank you for watching.
We haven't finished yet.
I know, but I'd like to say thank you.
Animal communication is very important, because I've got a workshop coming up here with Joanne Yo, who's an animal communicator, and you'll get all that information off my sites and the website and things like that. And I'll put it straight onto Joe here. But for the present, I have to say, my friends, thank you so much for allowing me to interview. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Rob.
And thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.